One day, your music is so eclectic. It's like, if you play with Van Morrison, it's blues and rhythm and blues and jazz. If you play with Bruce Springsteen, it's rock. If you play with Ronan Keating, it's pop. If you play with a folk act, it's folk. Aquarium is all of these and more. It's also classical. It's deep Russian folk roots, all of that stuff. And he described it like this. He said, in the West, you would have had the luxury of listening to jazz or rock or folk, and you become a specialist. In the Soviet Union, because this music was inaccessible, you would listen to the radio, and you might hear it's been a hard day, Simon and Garfunkel, snippets, little moments. And he said, so all of these little moments had a huge romantic resonance with him. He didn't develop any bias against any one music. He loved it all. His depth of knowledge about the music I come from, Irish folk music, is deeper than mine, way deeper than mine. He'll quote records and tracks that I've never heard of. And Brian would tell you the same thing. His knowledge of all kinds of music is extensive. But music itself is a universal language. Everyone understands music and rhythm and melody and harmony. So this is a language that I do speak. And it's beyond the spoken word. So that's what's great about playing with Aquarium.
How will that change in contemporary circumstances?
I don't think we can go back. And given his reaction publicly to what's been happening, I think he would be in trouble if he went back.
He falls into the new law of the fake news, because we don't, as the government forbids the word war.
Yes.
Just like in George Orwell.
And he said it.
War is peace. And he said it out
He said
loud.
it, so he...
So basically, I think that nobody dares, but still, I don't think that you can do concerts and gigs in Russia anytime soon. No. But
which is a tragedy. It's a tragedy, because I love it. I love Ukraine. I love I've spent 11 years, and all these places that I see now in ruins are as familiar to me as my hometown. I know people there. I know people in Moscow and St. Petersburg who are frightened. Seems crazy to me. It seems crazy to me. And yeah, you can't punish the entire population for that. It seems crazy when it's the one thing that reminds people of their music and art, reminds people of their humanity. It tears beyond flags and so-called patriotism, and all. We all suffer from patriotism, and I think we do all suffer from patriotism. The Irish have done it. The English have just done it with Brexit. It's a cloak that people hide behind to do awful things, in my view. I hate flags. I grew up through the Northern Irish Troubles with bombs and assassinations on a daily basis. So I know what that feels like.
You're from Belfast?
I'm from Derry,
Derry.
It's the second city of Northern Ireland. And so I know what that feels like. It's not, by the way, it's nothing compared to what's happening in Ukraine. Absolutely nothing. That's a war. That's full-scale war. I'll say it loudly. It's a fucking war.
Я не знаю, зачем и кому это нужно, кто послал их на смерть не дрожащей рукой. Только так бесполезно, так зло и не нужно. Опускали их в вечный покой. Равнодушные зрители молча кутались в шубы, и какая-то женщина с искаженным лицом целовала покойника в посиневшие губы и швырнула в священника обручальным кольцом. Забросали их елками, закидали их грязью И пошли по домам под шумок толковать, что пора положить уже конец безобразию, что и так уже скоро мы все начнем голодать. И никто не додумался просто встать на колени и сказать этим мальчикам, что в бездарной стране даже светлые подвиги — это только ступени бесконечной пропасти к недоступной весне. Я не знаю, зачем и кому это нужно, кто послал их на смерть не дрожащей рукой. Только так бесполезно, так зло и не нужно. Опустили их в вечный покой. Не судьба, говорили мне добрые люди. Вот то, что ты знал и хотел, а вот дымоход и труба. То, что снилось тебе, этого нет и не будет. Остальное оставь остальным. Не судьба. Небосвод перечеркнут вдоль поперек звездопадом. Только не в наших краях. Здесь и так не родятся хлеба. От прямого попадания звезды даже не думай, не надо. Остается пламя, которого не загасить. Не судьба. А мир говорит, как ты можешь быть так спокоен. Надвигается шторм, который разорвет саму суть бытия. А я говорю, мир, ты не понял. Да, на Надвигается шторм. Шторм — это я. Не судьба, нет больше слез и стерты колени. Наступает момент, и рукам уже не удержать каменной тяжести лба. Настоящих нас не было здесь дольше, чем на мгновение. Настоящие мы возвращаемся в солнечный свет. Не судьба. Но мир говорит, как ты можешь быть так спокоен? Надвигается шторм, который разорвет саму суть бытия. А я говорю, мир, ты не понял. Да, надвигается шторм. Шторм — это я.
I'd had a little vocoder because I know it's a cliche, it's a rock and roll cliche, the huddle before the show. And it's usually nonsense about God and blah, blah, blah. Certainly, you know, God bless us, and bollocks to all that. Boris, I can only describe it as Python-esque. We might have had, you know, a stressful sound check where it's not a great hall and blah, blah, blah. But when he builds up to that going on stage moment, there's this huddle. And if I had recorded every one of them in the last 11 years, you would have the greatest insight to how this man works. There was a great moment. Boris came to me and he very unusually said, I'm going to say something, because he's very rarely does he overtly say anything on a stage. The songs speak. Mm-hmm. And I'll get Sasha will translate, just so you know what I'm saying. And so, whoa, 3/4 of the way through the show, and he stops and he says, what I can tell you is this: dictators come and go, and wars come and go. As people, what we have is love and music and cocktails. And then this girl wheels on a cocktail bar and starts making cocktails for the band on stage, and the crowd went fucking wild. And this was a very subtle political point. Fuck flags and countries and all. All we have is each other. We're human beings. Don't fall for this con trick of sending your kids to die for rich guys. This is who we are. Love and music, and let's drink and be happy and be human beings. He did that for 1 solid year. Every night he made the same speech. Every night we had cocktails. Every night I was being encouraged by an artist to be drunk by the end of the show. No, you don't do that to a drummer, because I'm supposed to be keeping it all together. And on the one night, and we're in Kazan, and this bartender was making, I mean, super strong. I don't know what the fuck they were, but one few drinks, and I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, Boris, I can't play. Great! I can't think of anyone who would encourage you to be really crap on stage, because he wants everybody to have a good time. He did that for 1 year. Remarkable stuff. Subtly done, very subtly done, beautifully done, and the image of it that I think impressed that crowd. I think he got that message across. Wake up. Wake up. We're human beings. We're not Russians. We're not Ukrainians. We're not Irish. We're fucking human beings. Come on. We all breathe in and breathe out. We're all the same. Forget about all this bullshit. We're human beings. Come on. Wake up.